one of the most popular podcasts in Oklahoma City, the Wafti Show, or if you have perhaps a British or South African accent, maybe it's the Wafti Podcast, if you will. I'm Dave Morris, joined by these gentlemen, the brothers Aaron and John Souders and Stephen Tyler. Guys, thanks so much for stopping in. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
And I'm looking forward to this conversation. One of the things we want to do here at the Oklahoma Video Studio is hopefully at some point become Oklahoma City's living room, have a discussion place for people to come in and talk about what's going on. The Wafti Podcast is kind of the same concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You guys, well, I'll throw the question to you guys. When did you start this?
We started, our first episode was released January 5th of this year. We had actually come up with the idea back in November of last year, and essentially the idea behind it was to go and experience the cool things that were happening in our city, to actually go and be a part of it, and then come back and tell people about it.
And Stephen, WAFTI stands for?
We apologize for the inconvenience.
And how'd you guys come up with that?
We're big Douglas Adams fans, and so we were brainstorming ideas for the name of the show, and there's a piece in his book series, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that these people go to this mountain and they find what is God's last message to his creation, and once it's been translated, it comes out to, we apologize for the inconvenience. And our personalities, we knew we were going to be a little overbearing sometimes, and we can get a little crazy, so it was sort of a double meaning of like just apologizing in advance if we get in your way, or we make you crazy, or we show up at your bar and have way too much fun, or whatever the concept may be. We just liked the name. It was something that was unique. The other part of trying to find a name for a podcast is there are a lot of podcasts out there and a lot of different names, and almost everything we came up with was already taken. And then I don't remember even how we went down that road, but once we stumbled on that, we all were just like, yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
I'm reading a book now about Elon Musk. It's his biography. He's the guy behind Tesla, the cars, and SpaceX. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was one of the books that he really latched onto as a youth. So it's amazing the influence that Douglas Adams has had. 35 episodes in, I believe. So you guys are cranking this out weekly, right?
Yep. Every week we do. We typically record episodes on Sundays and release them every Monday morning. But we also recently set up a mobile recording studio, so we can go out and do things like Dead Center or the 48-hour Film Awards. We did we recorded a live episode from Elemental Coffee during H&A. So brought people in from off the street and had them come and join us. We were joined by Candace Mitchell, Brian Bergman, anybody out there experiencing what Oklahoma City has to offer, just sit them down. And
tough to get Brian to talk, though, isn't it?
No. It is. It's really hard. It's so hard.
Stephen, tell me about the mobile unit, because I've seen the pictures on your Facebook page. You guys keep a pretty small footprint when you go out to, say, a Dead Center.
Yeah. Right now, it's just really about 4 microphones, which is a little tight, and we kind of have to share. I'm looking at expanding it, but it's all, that was the goal, was we need to be able to go and pop into a corner of any situation and just set up. But also, my background is audio production, so from the very get-go of this, I had in my head like a set of standards about, well, it's going to sound like this. It's not going to be the microphone in the center of the living room and all of us yelling at it. It's going to be this direct stuff. So it's very similar to what you would take on a video shoot or anything else. I'm actually getting ready to move it to more of a field recorder to try to expand to more inputs so we have even more capacity, because I thought, well, 4 is enough because there's 3 of us and we'll have a guest. But now every time we've gone out, it's always been the 3 of us and like 3 other people.
There's always an entourage.
So it's gotten bigger and bigger.
So basically some Rode mics going into a mixer into an iPad, is that what I saw?
Yeah, there's actually an audio interface this company recently released called, I think it's called iConnectivity. And it's actually a 4-input interface that connects to the iPad, and then there's a multi-track recording application on the iPad. So it's all just tracked right into the device itself with the individual tracks, and then I can dump that to the computer. Actually, I could mix it right there on the iPad if I wanted to, but I have some sort of templates in our audio IDs and stuff that we fill in after the fact. But
I should mention this is a podcast. It's an audio situation, audio conversation that you guys are recording. And John, why podcasts?
It was something that we had access to. Stephen, with his job, had built this studio and had put in, like a nice couch, and had these boom mics to the, attached to the wall, and it wasn't really being utilized. And
That allows for a more relaxed situation too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes it very much a relaxed conversational setting, and it really was just the idea of, wow, we have this equipment available to us, and we have a passion for all the cool things that are happening in Oklahoma City. Why can't we just do this? Let's see what happens and give it a shot. And we started the creative process, and it's been a pretty amazing ride ever since we started. One of the things that we did know at the beginning was, if we're going to do this, we need to commit to it. We need to make sure and be consistent and release our episodes when we say we're going to. Every Monday at 6 a.m. and making sure that it's something that people can rely on for information.
What advice would you guys give to anybody else who wants to get into podcasting? Is it, hey, keep it simple and consistency?
Consistency is a huge part of it. One of the reasons why we chose podcasts is we had become a fan of the podcast format, listening to shows like Bim Bam and Joe Rogan. There was just a long list of shows that were my entertainment during the workday. And I knew that I could get a new episode on a regular basis, and if I didn't get that episode, that would infuriate me. So if you want to build a fan base and have people actually listen to you and maintain them and continue to follow you, come up with a good theme for your show. Stick to that theme. Make sure you don't veer off too much from it, and consistently release your product. Make it quality. Make it a format that always is reliable and looks the same, and that somebody can depend on to come to and always find what they're looking for if they've become a fan of you.
It seems like podcasts are making a comeback. I was reading just this morning, today, NPR launched its first podcasts 10 years ago.
Yes.
So it's about that time span that we're talking about since iTunes launched. And I guess, why? Why are podcasts coming back? Why are they still popular? Is it because people can listen at their leisure on demand in the workplace while they're making dinner or something?
I think it goes along with the nature of all audio in the last 10 years. If you look at the record industry and the way that album sales declined and all the stuff, and it all went digital, it all went to the iTunes store. And it took a while for everybody to get comfortable that they're going to listen on these devices. And now, as smartphones came into the plane, now all of a sudden everybody had the device, because before you may or may not have had an iPod. But now that you have this phone, whether it's Android or iOS or whatever, you can access this content, and then I think it's on demand too. We're moving past the idea of, I'm going to be on my sofa at 7 p.m. to watch that TV show on Wednesday night when it airs.
You've seen it change with Netflix and a million different things.
Hulu, DVRs, I mean, all of it has gone to this on-demand. People, and I think the nature of Oklahoma City right now with so much going on, that's what we found out is, I can't be on my couch at Friday at 6 p.m. to watch this TV show because H&H is going on, or because the 48-hour film festival, or it's Dead Center Week, or it's the Arts Festival, or this cool band is having a show at the wherever.
Perhaps it's a karaoke band.
Yeah, right. Perhaps it's a karaoke band. So I think a lot of it is all of that. The idea of podcasts came out and happened before we, as a society, had understood how we were going to get to it. And now we know how to get to it. And now it's what people want. They want on-demand radio, is the way I look at it. It is Netflix for radio, and you've seen that with NPR and other shows that are starting to we're going to go ahead and release This American Life as a podcast episode as well as air it on NPR. And you even have some producers that are jumping ship to start their own networks because they realize that this is the future of the audio format for them.
And people kind of binge consume right now. Orange is the New Black comes out, bang, they may wait or just watch 6 episodes in a row, and you guys are hearing that from an episode you may have taped 5 weeks ago. They're like, hey, John, I just heard that one from Dead Center. And you're like, yeah, that was a month ago.
Well, and also about a year ago, Sarah Koenig came out with her, probably the most popular podcast of all time, Serial. And that was a really good podcast that people could binge on. She was telling a story, it was very intriguing, and so that was something that people might wait, 3 or 4 weeks, so that they could listen to 4 episodes in a row instead of having to wait, I'm not going to wait till next week to figure out what's going to happen next. And I think that's one of the things that people are drawn to in that kind of format is that, if you want to, you can listen to this at your leisure, but listen to as much of it as you want, and keep yourself from having to go through any cliffhangers.
I think they said they already signed up for 2 more seasons or something of that. A couple more questions for you guys. What's been the reception when you go to an H&H, when you try to explain what you're doing? I have a podcast, going to ask questions. People just know now what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, most of the times when we go somewhere,
I would assume that's the case.
We get a little bit of the reaction of, oh, I've heard about this, but I didn't know exactly what it was. 48 Hour Film was a good example. We went and set up, and the first people we asked over were like, what am I doing? And we're like, oh, we're this podcast, here's the card, here's the thing. Oh, okay, yeah, this sounds, okay, great. And then they immediately start talking to us. But beyond that, the reception in general has been overwhelming. Like with H&H, as an example, Brian Bergman really early on was just like, whatever you want to do. He was like, you come and you do your thing, and we're into it. And I think Oklahoma City in general is supporting everybody right now. Even, you know, to touch on the H&H thing, even with the controversial eats on 8th or whatever, and that whole thing going on, if you talk to the H&H people, their opinion is, bring it. The more the merrier. Like we're not doing this because we're trying to have this exclusive thing. We're doing it because we want everybody in Oklahoma City to experience downtown and all this great stuff going on. So the fact that we tapped into that idea of we're going to tell people what's going on in Oklahoma City and promote all of it and be positive about it, the reception across the board has just been.
Well, and one of the things that I love what we're doing is we're not just telling you about it, we're actually getting involved. Like we didn't just go to a 48-hour film fest and just report what was going on. We entered it, made a film, you know, became a part of the event.
Cool.
So I think that's kind of one of the cool things about what we're doing is we're actually getting involved, you know, getting our hands into everything.
Well, I think you guys are right on the money. It's not just broadcasting. It's not a one-way conversation. These days it needs to be collaboration, allowing people to have a voice and an input to tell us what's going on.
Absolutely.
You can find them, The Wafti Show, on Twitter, on Instagram, and I believe the website is waftishow.com.
Yes.
Is that right? Download those episodes. John, Aaron, and Stephen, congratulations on everything.
Thank
Keep
you
it
very
up,
much.
and thanks so much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.